You're lying in bed. The lights are off. The house is quiet. And somehow that quiet feels louder than noise ever could. You reach for your phone, not to check anything, just to hear something. Anything. Here's the disruption. In 2014, a study published in the journal Science, led by University of Virginia psychologist Timothy Wilson, asked participants to sit alone in a room with nothing to do for just 6 to 15 minutes. No phone, no book, just silence. The result? 67% of men and 25% of women chose to give themselves a mild electric shock rather than sit with their own thoughts in that silence. This single reaction, wired into you long before smartphones existed, traces back to something far older than discomfort. It traces back to survival. For most of human history, silence wasn't peaceful. Silence was data. And often it was a warning. Consider the African savanna roughly 2 million years ago, where early hominins like Homo erectus lived in open grassland alongside predators such as lions and hyenas. In this environment, ambient sound, birds calling, insects humming, wind moving through grass, signaled that the environment was stable and no predator was actively stalking. Silence, sudden and total, meant something had changed. It meant every bird had gone quiet at once, which usually meant a predator was near. That silence wasn't relaxing. It was the sound of a held breath before an attack. But here's where it gets stranger. In 1970, biologist Eugene Morton documented what's now called the landscape of fear effect in savanna ecosystems. The idea that prey animals don't just react to predators directly, they react to changes in ambient sound as an early warning system. A sudden silence among birds and insects functions almost like a shared alarm. Vervet monkeys, cheetahs, gazelles, all of them respond to that drop in background noise before they ever see a threat. Early humans, sharing that same landscape, likely inherited the exact same reflex. Silence wasn't empty. It was information, and the absence of it could mean the difference between living through the day and not. That's not the whole story, though. Move forward roughly 12,000 years to the emergence of settled human communities. In groups, silence took on a second, equally dangerous meaning. Not predators, but exclusion. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at the University of Oxford spent decades studying group bonding in primates and humans and found that vocal contact, talking, chatting, even meaningless small talk, functions the same way physical grooming does in chimpanzees. It signals you are still part of the group. When conversation stops around you, when a room goes quiet as you enter it, that silence can register neurologically as a threat to your social standing. Being cut off from a group for most of human history wasn't just uncomfortable. In small hunter-gatherer bands of 25 to 150 people, exile from the group often meant death. No protection, no shared food, no defense against predators or rival groups. So the fear isn't only about missing sound, it's about missing belonging. Except there was a problem with assuming this fear was purely ancient. In 1971, environmental psychologist Roger Ulrich began research showing that humans today still physically react to silence in enclosed, unfamiliar spaces. Elevated heart rate, increased cortisol, heightened vigilance, even in places with zero actual danger, like a quiet hospital waiting room or an empty office at night. Your body, in other words, still runs the same threat detection software your ancestors used on the savannah 2 million years ago. It doesn't know the difference between an empty office and an empty grassland. That means the discomfort you feel in silence isn't a personal flaw, and it isn't random. It's a system, refined over roughly 2 million years, built for a world where quiet almost always meant something was wrong. In modern life, that system rarely gets to rest. A 2019 report from the market research firm GfK found that the average American spends only about 3 hours a day in complete quiet. The rest filled with background noise, television, music, notifications, conversation. Some researchers now argue this isn't a coincidence. It may be a form of self-medication, a way of keeping the ancient alarm system quiet by never letting real silence happen in the first place. Think about the last time you were truly alone, with no sound at all. Maybe it was seconds, maybe you filled it immediately. A podcast,